All right, Chelsea here. Happy to be joined virtually by Austin Ingerman. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Of course, thanks so much for joining us today. So, now many will know you, of course, from New Year's Day, but today our focus is on your brand new band, Gunshine. So, to start things off, why don't you kick it off by giving us an intro to Gunshine and how you guys came to be?
Yeah, so this was kind of a vision I've had for probably about 7 or 8 years now. I've known the drummer for about that long as well, James, who's a phenomenal, talented drummer, and we kind of had the idea to do this project, but it took forever to find the right pieces to kind of get it off the ground. And in 2016, I moved to LA and I went to Musicians Institute out in Hollywood, and right after that is when I got the touring gig with New Year's Day, and we went on tour with Hailstorm, In This Moment, Falling Reverse, Godsmack, and got to go to Australia, Europe. So I mean, that was an amazing opportunity. But in that band, I was more of kind of a hired gun. But meanwhile, I had the vision for Gunshine, and that was kind of my baby, so to speak, that I really wanted to get off the ground. But like I said, it just took a long time to get all the right pieces. So fast forward to 2020, right before the world shut down. We had just flown home from Europe, and it was kind of like, okay, what am I going to do now, kind of thing, because there was no touring and stuff going on. So I was like, okay, really, I can use this time to just do whatever I have to do to get this project off the ground. So we just it was just one of those weird things. Somebody was like, because I flew back, I wasn't living in Hollywood anymore. I went back to Pensacola, where I'm from, Pensacola, Florida, and somebody was like, hey, you should try this guy. He plays piano at this dueling piano bar, and I think he would be good for your songs. So at this point, we were very scarred with singers, so we didn't really expect anything. But we got him over to jam, and we wrote Wall Said to Call together, him and I, like in one day. And so it was just like we had an immediate chemistry. And yeah, that was April of 2021 was, so it took, I guess, from March of 2020 when I got home from Europe until like a year later is when Jordan came on board. So and from then it's just been moving at an extremely fast pace, and yeah, that was just like, the good thing is James and I had actually recorded a bunch of the songs that you hear on the first album instrumentally, so that when we found the right singer, they'd be ready to go, for the most
Nice.
part, which was a good thing that we did that, because it was hard to get into studios and stuff when all the COVID stuff was going on.
Definitely. Yeah. A lot of people had to adapt to just, home studios. And if you didn't have one, you had to make one sometimes because yeah, the studio situation was rough at that time, as was the live situation, of course.
Absolutely, which I'm kind of sitting in my home studio we have set up, and we demo everything here, and we get it like 99% how we're gonna do it. Then we go into the studio and actually do the actual thing. But yeah, at that time it ended up working out because we flew out to our producer in Vegas. Chris Collier is his name. He did the latest Corn record. He's doing the new Mick Mars. Does White Snake, like a bunch of just killer producer, engineer, multi-instrumentalist. He actually played bass on the first album too, and that was right before our bass player came into the picture. But yeah, so the good news was, on the first album we really only had to worry about the vocals, recording the vocals. So yeah, it made it a lot easier.
Definitely, yeah, because you got the whole structure together, and it was the unfortunate situation of the world shutting down, but at the same time, it gave you time to kind of execute your project there, which is cool.
Absolutely. Yep.
Definitely. So yeah, that's great working with Chris Collier as well. I was curious about the production side because that's something I always like to discuss with artists, because a lot, especially with the home studio adaptation, a lot tend to work on things themselves. But you guys basically had both going on. You had the structure yourself and then just kind of expanded it by getting additional band members, getting the external producer involved.
Absolutely. I think it's good for all artists to at least have like a basic knowledge of how to record, and at least be able to demo your ideas out, and um like the way I do things is I'll hear riffs and vocal melodies and stuff in my head, and then um, most of the time it's when I'm not even at home, or when I don't even have a guitar on me. So it's nice that you even have like an iPhone to be able to put your ideas down, and then you can get back home and then make it demo it out a bit more and everything. But yeah, if you can do that, then you know exactly what to expect when you go in the studio. You're not wasting time and money. You know what I mean? So you can get it you can have time to sit with it, and that's a big thing for me with songwriting too, is you got to be able to have the perspective and be able to listen as a listener and not just like a songwriter. And if you do things on the spot, it doesn't really give you the time to be able to get that perspective. So that's the good thing about demoing stuff, is you have plenty of time to sit with it and tweak it if you need to, and not have to worry about paying anyone. So
100%. Yeah. And that's a good point that you have about hearing it as a listener, not just a songwriter, because you can get a little too inside the song sometimes as a songwriter, where there might be a section that you're like, I'm really fond of this, I love this part, but maybe it isn't what's best for the song, and vice versa. You can find different routes to explore by thinking of it, kind of outside of yourself as the songwriter.
definitely, that is definitely the key, because like sometimes you'll come up with a bunch of stuff in the moment and then it sounds good, but then when you come back to it, it's kind of like, oh, what the hell was I thinking there? Or you hear it as a whole and it's like, okay, this part individually was cool, this one individually was cool, but like they don't mesh together. You know what I mean? So it's great to kind of do pieces at a time, go and come back, and then you'll know, like, okay, there it is. Like now if it's flowing the way we want it to. And yeah, so yeah, it's all about that perspective for sure.
So I definitely want to dig into your debut album, Checkmate, in terms of the awesome classic sound you have. There's 5 tracks that give you a classic hard rock vibe, but still definitely modern enough to fit in 2023. So where did some of these song inspirations come from for you guys?
Yeah, this is actually our second release. So we have a full-length 10-song debut album, and then we have the new 5-song EP as well. So, but really, it was just each song is kind of its own thing. So, like 90 Proof, for example, started off with a guitar riff, and then like one day I was doing the dishes and I heard like the chorus vocal melody in my head, and then Jordan came over and had a really good like lyric tagline, like I'm just trying to be your 90 Proof, and he had a great. I'm kind of obsessed with like catchy choruses and catchy vocal melodies and stuff like that. And he's a real big lyric kind of guy, so we mesh really well together. But
That
yeah, and
perfect
then our
combo.
drummer, yeah, exactly. And then our drummer came in with the whole like middle section drum solo kind of thing, and it was all just really really organic. And my favorite track on the EP is the last one, Till the End of Days. It's just it's 8.5 minutes, but to me it's super. I'm just really proud of that one. It's very it takes all these twists and turns and has this almost like flowing melodic like Boston-y kind of vibe, but it's also very like I don't even know. It's just it's one of those songs that just came together. It all actually really came together pretty organically, but a lot of it was hearing parts in your head, little snippets of things, like starting with a riff or whatever, and then just kind of letting it flow naturally from there.
That's awesome. And of course, you pointed out the catchy melodic choruses. That is a lot of what brings it that classic hard rock vibe, even classic metal vibe. A lot of the traditional kind of sound is based on those catchy choruses, that arena rock sort of style. But again, at the same time, you have very
Mhm.
interesting riffs going on, very, different sounds that wouldn't necessarily fit in the classic hard rock context. So it's cool you kind of mesh the styles together.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, like me being 28, when I was a kid growing up, like even the boy bands were like huge at the time. So like my sister and I were listening to like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and stuff like that. And
Who
we
didn't?
were just yeah. I mean, I was just into anything that was catchy. When it comes to like even some like the '80s soft rock, or like '80s new wave, like The Cure, or um, Duran Duran, stuff like that. But then like of course like I loved AC/DC and GNR and all that stuff too. So it's almost like if you combine like the edginess of like a GNR with like the melody of like Def Leppard or Boston, just using that as an example. But like, it was kind of, I think it's important to kind of know what you want too, and have that filter of like what you think is catchy, and the more you can do that, I think it helps you hone in on exactly what you're trying to create.
And for a pretty fairly new band, you guys already have a lot of music videos out too. So can you talk about putting those together?
Yeah, yeah, those are all super fun to do. We actually, so Wall Said to Call and Daylight was actually done at like next door bars. Like we did one of them at one bar, and then literally the bar right next to that, we went to the other one to do the next video. So it was like kill two birds with one stone kind of thing, Um, but it's super cool because we live we're in Pensacola Beach, which is like some of the nicest like beaches, and there's a cool little bar scene, so it's gonna be cool one day to be able to say that we did those videos there. And then we just came out with a song Swing Away, which is like, it's got all these like super intense, it's a very empowering like anti-bullying kind of song, very edgy. And of course, Swing Away, our video guy Jimmy, he was like, oh, we should do it in a boxing ring. So we did it in a boxing ring and have the girls in it and stuff like that. So it was a super fun video to make too.
Definitely. And I love the fact that it was in a ring, kind of connects with the WrestleMania connection that you had recently with New Year's Day, because you had that awesome WrestleMania performance. And it's so cool that Rhea Ripley had that entrance music from you guys. So first off, how was that experience of performing it live at WrestleMania? And also, how did the connection with the band doing a song for WWE come about?
Yeah, the connection was made. So Ash, she was out in New York, I think, working on doing a songwriting session, and she actually met the guys, I think, that were somehow tied in with WWE. But yeah, it was an incredible experience. I mean, it was like, being backstage and meeting like Hulk Hogan and of course at the time, I mean, I really didn't know a whole lot about wrestling, but at the same time, like you quickly found out that was the Super Bowl of wrestling for sure. And Rhea Ripley, like what a professional she is, just amazing. Um, and she's got, we all had to rehearse like that big like stomp that we had to do, but it was super fun. I mean, it was like, it just sucks because like at the time it was like 25% capacity in the stadium, which it was still a huge thing, but at the same time it was like, if we would have got to do it now, it would have, it would have been even better. But yeah, that was technically my first time performing in a stadium, so super cool.
Very cool. Well, hopefully more to come with that too. But that's awesome. Yeah, but that's
Yeah,
interesting
yeah.
with that 25% capacity. Yeah, it was kind of like a half arena rock kind of vibe. Like you were mostly
Yeah.
there.
Which, I mean, you can't tell anyway when you're on stage because of how
I'm sure.
everything's so far back, and so. But but yeah, it was. I'm just glad we got to do it, honestly, because at that time, there were still events getting canceled and stuff like that too.
Definitely, yeah. But I mean, coming back to your comments about Pensacola, Florida, that's really cool because I mean, you guys have already been playing some live shows locally. It looks like you're heading out on a local tour next month. So congrats to you guys for heading right out on the road with this new EP.
Thank you. Yeah, we actually just got off some dates with Jackyl, and that was super fun. They still do the chainsaw thing and all that, which is crazy. So
That's always
it
been
was
a
a great
wild band.
experience. Oh yeah, yeah, they're super. Yeah, it was super fun, but they were all super cool, and it was a great bill because their fan base really liked our kind of music and stuff too. So
Perfect. Yeah, good combo. Aren't they also a Florida band, or am I mistaken on that?
they're from Georgia actually.
Okay, right next door. So, still a
Yeah,
connection there, which is cool.
close enough. Yeah,
Definitely. So Checkmate, I
exactly.
also noticed is out now on Grove Records slash The Fuel Music. So I'm curious why the two label designation there.
Yeah, yeah, Grove Records. So, we just did it independent, but we're from Florida, so we were like, that was just our own label name, Grove Record, like Orange Grove or whatever. It's Florida oranges, but no. So we just signed with a new distribution team, Fuel Music, and so yeah, that's kind of the way they wanted to keep the original name that we had and just kind of combine it. But yeah, we're super grateful for to have them on board and of course our management and everything too. And yeah, we're excited to get it out there.
Absolutely. Going back a little bit too, I want to ask pre-Gunshine, pre-New Year's Day, where would we have found Austin making music? And was it always guitar for you?
Yeah, it was always guitar. I mean, I've been playing guitar since I was like 7 or 8, but I didn't really take it very seriously until I was around 17 and I started like playing in bars and stuff like that. But I noticed when I was going through school that I always liked songwriting, and I realized early on that the creative part of it was really the whole reason I even liked music. Like you know, in terms of like actually playing, because it's one thing to just play guitar all day, but if you're not, to me, if I wasn't like creating something with it, it just kind of got boring after a while. It was like, well, what am I playing for or something? So I always I always felt very accomplished, when I was creating and writing something. So I kind of discovered that like even as a teenager, like early on. I had a band in middle school and high school, and with like some neighbors that I had that also played, and that's we started writing songs together, and yeah. So even early on, I kind of like discovered that passion, and but yeah. What was the other part of the question? Did I answer everything?
Yeah, I mean, I was just kind of asking generally about your background in music and, whether it was always guitar and just where, where we would find Austin pre-Gunshine, pre-New Year's Day. So did you start off kind of with local bands or local scene kind of thing?
Yeah, so when I was 17, as I mentioned, I started playing in bars and stuff like that. I did that a few years because we have kind of a big like cover band scene from where we are down here because of like again being close to the beach and like party, spring break destinations and stuff like that. Like people travel from all over the country to come down here to go on vacation and stuff like that. So we have a lot of those like bar band kind of gigs, cover gigs and stuff going on. So I had done that for a few years. From like 17 to like 22, and then I moved to LA, went to Musicians Institute, which was an unbelievable experience. Like all the teachers at MI were just like phenomenally good, and I learned so much about music. And just living in LA, obviously the networking and connections. That's how I met Chris Collier, who did the Gunshine albums and stuff, and that's how I got my touring gig with New Year's Day and all that as well. So yeah, that was kind of how it happened. It's all just very I can't even believe it. All just seems like a blur, to be honest.
No, but that's the best kind of thing though, where it just kind of flows. You don't have to think about it much. How am I going to get from point A to point B? It just, you're there already.
Yeah, we're trying for sure.
That's awesome. So yeah, of course, coming back to the present day, what do you see as being up next for both you and the band?
Yeah, so we're just staying super busy right now. We got headline shows coming up in June. We're doing June 9th and 10th in Tampa and Orlando, and we have the 16th in Knoxville, 25th in Atlanta, and so yeah, we're adding more dates and releasing new merch and all that. Yeah, we just dropped our new EP, so the CDs literally just got here the other day. So yeah, if you go to gunshineband.com, all that stuff's there. We're on all streaming platforms, all social media. We're trying to play the whole TikTok game, and keep up with all that the best we can.
Good
But yeah,
stuff.
that's pretty much it. Just staying as busy as we can and trying to do the next thing.
Awesome. Well, again, congrats on the release, and we're looking forward to hearing more from Gunshine. You guys are just getting started, so I'm sure there's plenty more to come. So thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.